Welcome in to the Mask and the Mic. I'm Guy Hebert, former NHL goaltender, and yeah, you got it. I'm the Mask.
Yeah, and I'm Kent French, former NHL broadcaster, and I am the mic in this equation. And welcome to the Mask and the Mic podcast. And Gibo, some hockey talk coming at you as the regular season is in the home stretch.
It's a little bit of hockey talk, and hey, what the heck did we do on our weekend? That's something that you got to stay tuned for.
Yeah, what did we do? People really want to know. And do we believe the Ducks can win the Pacific? Darn right. As I wear my Ted Lasso jacket. Yes, we believe it's going to be a fun episode. We look forward to you guys listening in. And as always,
and good for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mask of the Mic. Kent and Guy back with you. A lot to talk about on this episode as we push towards the postseason in hockey. But before we dive into the NHL and all things Pacific Division, Gibo, we got to recap the weekends because, as you told me, people really do care. They really do care what we do outside of us being, I guess, media personalities. People want to know.
Well, they want a peek behind the curtain, right? That's what everybody wants.
That's what you tell me. So I'm trusting you in this. So, so last time you and I spoke, which was not on mic but off mic, your wife Sarah had a Monday off, and you were considering some different places to go. And
yeah, I owed a little quick trip. So,
and I was like, and you mentioned Vegas to me. And I'm like, yeah, well, that sounds cool. Yeah, Vegas. And so all of a sudden I'm watching, your Instagram, by the way. If you're not following Gibo, he's a good follow. Got to follow Gibo on Instagram. It's all these wineries. Like, where the hell did you go this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I never know where I'm going to end up. That's probably the
beauty of it. That's fantastic.
And let's just rewind to that people do want to know what goes on in our lives, because I too listen to podcasts, and my wife loves some podcasts, and I think her favorite one is Giggly Squad, one of the greatest names of all time, and Hannah and Paige from Summer House, the show. If you or watch, I watch a lot of those type of shows. But anyways, it's a great listen, and I'm thoroughly entertained. My wife tells me everything that's going on in their lives, so why not take a page out of their book, no pun intended, to Paige DeSorbo, and let's, look into the future and the past of what we'd like to do. But anyways, let's get back to my trip. So yes. It was in Vegas. Vegas is always kind of the default trip. It's easy to get to. You can spend 24 hours. You feel like you've been there for a week, and then you're ready to come home. So, decided to do something a little bit different, had a little bit more time, and have never been to the wine country. I know, listen, don't react just yet. 32 years living in Southern California, have planned a trip up there many, many times, and have canceled them all for
I'm in shock. I'm in shock right now.
I know. I've been embarrassed to have conversations with friends about, Napa, Sonoma, Paso Robles, wherever, and have had to say, no, I still haven't been there. So I've checked that box, had a chance to go up. We went up to Napa Valley, Calistoga, and did a drive. We drove all through the wine country to downtown Napa, Yountville, and popped into several of the winemakers, especially Rombauer. I think you saw that on my social media.
I did, yes.
So, but yeah, it was incredible. I mean, it is not harvest season. The grapes are not growing. Everything is dormant in the vineyards, but that did not disappoint because, I mean, the topography, the geography, I mean, the landscaping, just absolutely beautiful. And we didn't expect to see what we thought. I mean, it was more mountainous than we thought, and the valleys were beautiful. And of course, the wineries pulling into many of them were just unreal. Some things we didn't really expect. We pulled into some wineries expecting something really old, and we found like more contemporary looking buildings. So it was really cool, and sampling was fantastic. So the only other thing I can say is I've heard all these rumors about people getting on bicycles and riding from winery to winery.
Yes.
Without getting killed, I don't know how you can do that. I mean, because the wineries where we weren't that close to one another, and the roads were mostly 1 or 2 lane roads, and it was very dicey. So I'm not sure where that happens. I don't know if you've got a story about that, but that was our weekend. Quick up and back to Napa Valley, and we will be back again soon.
Yeah, well, the bike thing is a great idea after your 4th winery. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't seem like a good idea prior to that. Number
Yeah.
2 is you said it wasn't harvest season. It's always drinking season, as you know, and
Yeah.
I'm and
Yeah.
and why am I shocked? Because you and Sarah love your Chardonnay, and it was like,
Yeah.
what in the heck? How like I'm still blown away. So that's one of my happy places is wine country. Love it. My wife and I
Yeah.
got married in Paso Robles. Gone to
Now,
Napa
is it
many
Paso
times.
Robles or Paso Robles?
See, it's Robles, I believe.
Is it Robles?
Yes, I used to say
If
Robles. I used to say Robles all the
yeah, if
time.
there's anybody out there, please correct us. We want to know.
Yeah, give us a shout out. I had to figure that one out. So I'm gonna go with Robles,
Okay.
as much as I like to say Robles. It rolls off the tongue a little bit better. But yeah, we have friends that just in Healdsburg, they just opened up a vineyard. So we'll be promoting that down the road. But yeah, I love that area. I mean, either I'm under an umbrella on a beach, under umbrella because I burn easy, or under an umbrella on a winery because I burn easy. So Gibo, those are my 2
Yeah.
favorite spots. So well done, sir.
Now we know. Now we can
God, that
jump
is
aboard.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's I'm so glad you guys had a chance to do that for the
Yeah.
first time in however many years.
Yes.
So
Well,
good.
and I'm sure you had a equally as entertaining weekend as we
Kipo,
did.
I wish I did as we transition into yes. Yeah, my snapshot's a little bit different. I am now working once again. Not in a field that many might expect. I am a beer tender. Friends at yeah, our some good friends,
I
Brian
happen
Rosto and Evan Price at Green Cheek Beer, who are just they're awesome, great company. They were kind enough to let me come on and do some part-time work. You and I did a little we did an Olympic show there. A live Olympic show for game 1 against Latvia, USA hockey. And I've was pouring beer this weekend, and I would be pouring beer on St. Patrick's Day. And you might see me at a local golf tournament, Gibo. So don't be surprised if you're coming around the turn and there I am under the green sheet tent pouring you beer.
well, I can only hope so. And I'm sure, like you like to do, you've perfected the art form. And so I'm sure there's no spillage. There's probably no wasted beer, and there's certainly not too much foam.
Let me tell you something. I have 2 different certifications that I did not know that I was going to need, but it makes complete sense. So I am a certified beer tender, had to learn all this stuff, learning as I go. Just the right pour, the right way to do it, tipping the glass, changing the kegs. I'm learning all this stuff. So it has been an experience, and a shout out to all the people I work with at Green Cheek. I'm in Orange right now, so if you want to stop by, maybe you'll see me there. But they've been very patient with me, and I appreciate that.
And
I am
now
learning.
is this like is this a in-person certification? Is this online? Is this made up? I mean, or it's I mean, you know, is it private? Did Brian help you out with
Is it
this?
made up? I hope not, because I had to study for this thing, and I didn't realize how involved this test would be. And you have to pay. I don't know how much. I forget how much I had to spend. You get like three chances at this thing, and I'm like,
It's like
oh,
passing the
oh,
bar
no,
exam. Yeah,
no
three
problem,
chances.
right?
Yeah.
First time I go around, like 60 questions. I'm like, all right, whatever. Second go around, I'm thinking, oh, same questions. I'll just remember, no,
Yeah.
different test. I failed like 3 times. I had to re-sign up again. Then I'm diving into studying again. So yes, no, it's real. God, I hope it was real. Otherwise, I was
Well, I'm
bamboozled.
boy, I don't know what you did in college, but apparently
Oh.
you were doing what most of us were doing. I mean, I think we all learned
Well, wait a second.
to tap a
I think we
keg,
were
change a
yes,
keg.
but
Yeah.
there are instructions.
Pour the beer in the solo cup. I mean, without
Yeah,
getting, yeah,
I know. I know. I know these things. I would like to think I was
yeah,
somewhat good at it, but apparently not, Guy. I guess
yeah.
you know,
Now you've moved on to professional
yeah. So next time
beer
I
tender.
see you
Yes.
in person, I will pour you a can of Green Cheek, and
Yes.
you just watch, and it is an art form.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. I can't wait. I can't
Yeah.
wait for my free beer.
All right. I I get 3. I get 3 every now and then. So I certainly you'll be on top of my list when I see you come in. Um, Actually, too, as much as the green cheek thing was going on, we it is St. Patrick's Day, right? So this
Sure.
will air the day after. as we tape this podcast, and my daughter gets to free dress at school. So she's green. She's got shamrock. She's got shamrock pants on, shamrock socks on, and the whole bit. But let me tell you something. Heading out the door this morning, there's a thing called bubble braids. I don't know. I know that it's been a while since you've had a
I've
9-year-old
now
daughter.
moved on. Yes,
You
from
moved
that.
on. So bubble braids, they're kind of like a hair tie thing. She wanted green. Well, she made some doll out of bubble braids, and then she wanted to utilize these bubble braids. And so I get a text from my wife. We couldn't find him this morning, went everywhere, and she's very upset. So I turned the house upside down and I found said bubble braid toy that she made under the couch. So after this podcast, Gibo, I will be driving to her school to drop off
Ah.
green bubble braids.
So the question is because as a dad, I've experienced full meltdowns. Was it a full meltdown, a partial meltdown, or actually not all that bad?
She doesn't have meltdowns. It's just she's disappointed. Like, and she is visibly disappointed. And
Disappointed in you?
no,
Couldn't
no,
find
God,
them?
I
Is
hope
that what
no,
it like?
no. Oh,
Daddy,
no.
where are my
My
bubble braids?
No, I know. I think it was
Okay.
just disappointed just that we didn't find them and that, it matches the outfit. You gotta have the green, the green, the green, right? So it
Yeah.
wasn't coordinating. She wasn't feeling it, and Michelle texted me and said, "I have never seen her this disappointed in a long time." So, of course, whether it's mom or dad, we're gonna make this right.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I
it's all
am
about the accessories. I mean,
it is,
yeah.
and you know what? She is all about the accessories. She looked amazing going out the door. So we have to complete the outfit. That's a priority. So that will happen today. So if I'm talking fast, it's because I gotta go.
It just do it. We should be doing this as you're driving down the street right now. Just,
This has been another edition of the Mask of the Mike. See you later, as I have to go to school. Yes, yeah. So, anyways, that all fun stuff, and should be great. Oh, I
we
will
live
tease.
incredibly exciting lives.
Can I tease? Can I tease our
Sure.
next
Yeah,
podcast? Depending
sure.
if we have a guest or not. Not sure. We have some really guests out there that have agreed to do it, but we just got to find the right
Yeah,
time.
scheduling is just
You'll
yeah.
be. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be very happy with this. But I will say this: coming up for me is Michelle and I and Everly are going to Petco Park in San Diego on the 21st of March, and we are going to witness for the very first time the phenomenon, Guy, that is known as banana ball.
Oh, no way.
The Savannah Bananas. We had to get in a lottery and do the whole thing. Like it's crazy, right? Crazy town. So they were just in New Orleans, I believe, and Drew Brees was there on the field. So we are going to experience banana ball, and I will have a full report next podcast.
I'll tell you what, if you do your job well, and I know you do, wouldn't it be great if we got one of the players on our podcast?
Hey,
Hey, I'm lumping all the pressure. Everybody out there who listens to us, make sure you message, DM, whatever, Kent French and say, we want.
Wait, why am I scheduling? Damn it. Yeah, no.
Well, I won't be there. So
That's true. Yeah, I know. I will come up and make up business cards or just shake hands and talk to people and see what I can
yeah.
come up with. Yeah, I
Yeah.
will certainly try.
Well, I'm thrilled and excited about the prospects of having the players on, or one player, not all the
Well,
players, just one player.
we just need one, and then it just steamrolls, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're trying to get one of damn Hall of Famers are tough to get a hold of these days.
Yeah. They are.
What are you gonna do?
Writing books and golfing and
Playing
world
tennis
traveling and
I don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
If you know who we're talking about, you can only imagine. All right, let's kick things off and dive into a little bit of hockey, Gibo, and
the best time of the year.
Best time of the year.
You get inside 20 games in the NHL, and everybody is hunting for a playoff spot, jockeying for position in the playoffs. They want home ice advantage. If they're in a good spot, they can maybe start to rest some players as it gets down toward 10 games. But right now, as you're going to probably point out, the races are incredibly tight in both conferences.
Well, they're tight, but I want to start with this. When Henry Samueli talks, people listen. Beginning of the season, you hired Joel Quenneville, Pat Verbeek. Both those guys were given a task. It is a must to get to the postseason. And as we sit today, Guy Hebert, after a big win in Montreal, after they finish up a road trip, they are in first place in the Pacific Division. Henry's a quiet leader. Both you and I both have met him many times, talked to him many times. He's not that vocal when it comes to this Ducks team. So when he is, the message was sent loud and clear. And Guy, are you impressed with the way this team has responded to his request?
Yes and no, because he made the same request last season, and the guys did not come through. And of course, then there were changes made, coaching change, personnel change, player changes. So, I mean, any Ducks fan out there, I think, has been seeing this kind of building over the last few years, watching young players develop, acquiring some veteran players, trying to find that right mix, right chemistry, but when your ownership says, hey, I think I've done my job to put the pieces in place. Now it's all of your jobs to be able to get out there, execute on the ice, and get points and make it to the playoffs. So I'm really excited. I know the fans are incredibly excited. It's been really fun to watch the development of the players. I think that there's been some additions this season that have played way beyond the expectations. I think it's one Cutter Gauthier, I think, is, even though we thought he was a goal scorer, he's exceeded that. Beckett Seneca has blown everybody out of the water. No, I don't think you saw this coming. You thought that he would be a good rookie, but has played really well beyond his years. And I think just the team chemistry has been great all season long. When guys have been out with injuries, guys have stepped up, and it's an incredibly fun team to watch. If I was any other team in the Western Conference, I would be worried about looking at the Ducks in that first round. And, listen, this is a team, we all know goalies are a hot commodity, and when they get hot, teams can ride them. So what's in store for them? I don't know. They have to make it to the playoffs first, of course, to get there and see what kind of damage they can do. But they're in a great spot right now, as you mentioned, leading the Pacific. Obviously, Edmonton, Vegas nipping at their heels for those top three spots. And then the wild card race is just that, Frenchie. It is wild. And who knows how it's going to all end up. But listen, I know that you got some thoughts of your own.
Oh, yeah. I just want to set the tone here. As we sit today, Ducks are 77 points, tops in the Pacific, 1 point ahead, as you mentioned, of Vegas, 2 points ahead of Edmonton. Oh, by the way, Edmonton has been to the finals back-to-back, lost back-to-back, so they are hungry, ready to go. Vegas has certainly, more recently, has won a cup as well. They are loaded, and they are veteran playoff teams, Gibo, and you get a Ducks team that certainly, as you mentioned, a little bit younger, and it's been a while since those Ducks have been to the postseason. I want to say it's been what, seven years since they've been to the postseason.
Yes.
So that being said, how much does that play into things? You mentioned a Beckett Seneca. I want to hit on that in a moment, but when you have this experience, these teams that have been there, been to the postseason on a yearly basis, really over the last decade, or last 5 years at least, when you talk about Edmonton and Vegas, how much does that play into an advantage when you do reach the postseason?
Well, I think the advantage lies in some of their players. Obviously, McDavid and Draisaitl, they're all-world players. So, but the supporting cast has been around. I think experience goes a long way. The deeper you get into the playoffs, you certainly aren't surprised by anything. You understand the toll it takes on your body. How you manage your rest properly. And I think when you're into the playoffs for the first time in a long time, or the first time ever, I think some of those things get lost. And I think, sometimes you expend too much energy with friends and family and who wants to come to the games, and you get a little distracted. So I think that the veteran teams certainly have an advantage. But listen, the Ducks have players that have gone deep into the playoffs or won Stanley Cups. And of course, the addition to John Carlson is exactly that type of player. Radko Gudas deep into the playoffs with Tampa Bay. You have Trouba deep in the playoffs with New York Rangers. So as you go down that roster, there is experience. Now, maybe not immediate experience, but those veteran players, once they get to the playoffs, I mean, it's a really big role for them to be able to make sure that guys are prepared. And that leadership really comes through. But sometimes the excitement of a young team gets into the playoffs, and there's no disappointment. You just go out and play as hard as you can. You try to win every game, and you see what you can do. So I think the Ducks That's why I think they're so scary. They can score goals. We've seen these comebacks time and time again where you think the game's over, and all of a sudden, here come the Ducks late in the game, yeah, whether they pull the goalie or not. And Montreal was just another example the other night of how this team can score goals and come back in kind of a flurry of activity. So this is something that will scare, I think, any coaching staff and any player, and especially any goaltender out there, knowing if there's a couple minutes left in the game, we're in the playoff against this team that they can score goals. And I mean, they give up a lot of goals, which is not great. But
Right.
I think the comfort level is that we're really never out of the game.
21 come from behind victories, tied with the Canadiens for first in the National Hockey League. 8-0 in the shootout. How in the hell do you do that? I mean, again, you look at Dostal and you look at the skill players the Ducks have, of course, to get it done on the other end. But just to verify, it has been 7 years since the Ducks been in the postseason. They were in the basement just 3 years ago, Gibo, which is remarkable turnaround, if you will. It's obviously been a rebuild, but certainly Pat Verbeek has been pulling the right strings to get the team back in contention. But I will say this. I'm not familiar with this site, Tankathon, but they have said the Ducks have the easiest or second easiest strength of schedule remaining, which is huge. And then you have, of course, the Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers, which their schedules are a little more daunting. But it's a matter of, in that room, take me into a room because you've been there with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim as you guys were trying to get in the postseason, of course, then got there. But how what are the blinders that you have to have just to get the job done in the room, take care of your own business? You hear it all the time. It's kind of a cliche. Take care of our business, everything will
Yeah.
work itself out. How much do you have to have that mentality?
There's a lot that goes into it. And I think that, teams will actually kind of look at a number, like how many points is it going to take us to make sure we get into the playoffs or secure one of the top three spots in the Pacific. So, talk about it that much, but in your head, you start to think, okay, if we get to 100 points, then we're going to be in. Well, what does it take for us to get to 100 points? Well, it's going to be, 12 more wins, 13 more wins. That's like 24 points. That gets us right around 100 points. So, strength of schedule is a huge thing, but as you say, you got to take care of your business. Ducks went on the road. They beat a desperate Winnipeg Jets team. Great way to start the road trip. Then all of a sudden they kind of stumbled and we're like, uh-oh, we knew we were going to play another desperate team in Ottawa Senators. So we knew that was going to be difficult. And then Montreal. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, you look too far thinking these are wins and these are real challenging games. So I think that's the thing that you can get caught up on when you're seeing teams that are no longer vying for the playoffs. I mean, we've talked about it on TV for years. We talk about it in the locker room, and the coaches are always like, okay, these are trap games. And if you're not prepared, because listen, it's a professional sport. Guys are playing for jobs. And the Ducks have experienced this on the other side for many years in the past 7 is that like we're playing for our job next year. We're playing to impress the coaching staff. We're playing for contracts. And, we have pride wearing this jersey. So whenever we're out on the ice, what we're playing for is to beat the other team and try to knock them out of the playoff race and make it difficult for them. So, it's interesting, depending on what side of the line you're on, out of the playoffs or in the playoffs. I think it's at the end of the day, the Ducks, I think, have to take care of their business because of the schedule. They have the best shot of leading and winning the Pacific Division.
Deal or no deal? That was a podcast we had a couple weeks ago, right before the trade deadline, and one of the things we talked about, which I'm a firm believer in. I think you are as well. If you're going to add to a team, don't subtract. Do the best you can to add. You have already have chemistry. You got to be careful with the vibe in the room. You don't want to mess with that. Oh, the Ducks go out and they get John Carlson. Who the hell saw that coming, by the way? I mean, that he was even available. 36-year-old D-man. They were looking for a right-handed shot. They got him. This guy has been a Norris Trophy finalist, of course, a Stanley Cup champion with the Caps. They get him for a conditional first. And the Ducks are in a position where they're one of the best, minor league teams, best prospect pools in all of hockey. They can afford to give away a late first round, in my opinion, because that's exactly what it is. It's a prospect, right? You don't
Yeah.
exactly know what you're going to get at that point, and who knows? And then they could sign Carlson to an extension. and all signs point that they might want to sign him to another 2-year deal. So that all being said, I was impressed with the John Carlson deal. Again, for someone who does follow the sport, I was kind of shocked. Pat Verbeek did a wonderful job in my opinion, and he made his debut in Toronto. And you talk about veteran presence, a guy that's been there, a guy that's going to keep. Not that they have the Kreiders of the world in there as well, but to keep this team moving in the right direction, I think that was a fantastic move. What say you, Gibo?
Yeah, no one saw it coming. A guy who's played 17 years, his entire career with the Capitals, finding out in the middle of the night because the deal was consummated very late and he was already sleeping. Not the way that normally you would treat a guy who's been there for that long. I think that because he was a pending UFA, and where Washington is in their own. I mean, they're not rebuilding yet, but what's going to happen with Ovechkin? Will they have to start to rebuild if he decides to retire? So I think with John Carlson, the Ducks can consider him a rental player and see how things go. Does he like it here? Does he contribute? I've seen him say that, listen, I got a lot left in the tank. This isn't a swan song for me to go to Anaheim, see what I can do, and then hang him up. So he's definitely looking to play for a few more years. And, this is where a player can have such a huge impact on a team and then make himself really so valuable that the team looks to make sure they tie him up and let him get to unrestricted free agency this summer. So a lot of that, I think the Ducks are going to just wait and see. I think that he's going to be able to have a nice impact here in this final stretch. And as you mentioned, it's another veteran player. It's going to make it interesting to see how the Ducks handle their younger defensemen, because if you think about, Trouba, Carlson, and Radko Gudas out currently with a suspension. So the timing of having Carlson join the team is actually really great. Gudas out for 5 games. I think he's got, four games remaining in that suspension. But I think all things point to the fact that, he's been there, he's done that. When things get a little hectic, a little rattled, there's another calming voice in that locker room, on the bench, on the ice in front of the goaltender to say, hey, let's just settle down. We're under control. We got this. And I think that goes certainly a long way. I know I experienced that with some of the veterans that I had played with.
Well, a couple of the other teams, as we mentioned, that are right there with the Anaheim Ducks when it comes to the Pacific Division, talking about Vegas and, of course, Edmonton at the deadline, they pretty much tinkered, right? Those are playoff teams. They are going to go back to the postseason in some shape or form. As I mentioned, Edmonton been to the finals in back-to-back years, so they tinkered, right? They didn't do too much. But let's talk goalies. Shocking. Let's talk goaltenders right now. We'll get to Dostal in a moment, as he is now the undisputed starter with Gibby going to Detroit last season. So he will be going to the postseason. We say going to the postseason because we believe that's going to happen for the first time. So, but the Edmonton Oilers goaltending has always been an issue
Wow.
for them. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Edmonton they've been dealing with goaltending. They've been trying to find that guy. Connor Ingram has taken over net. Is this a guy that can take Edmonton where they want to go? And I mean, they got Stuart Skinner still there. I mean, they got what are your thoughts?
Whoa. Stuart Skinner.
Yeah.
No, you're forgetting about the trade that happened with Skinner going to Pittsburgh. Tristan
Jarry is there. I have him on my
Yes.
depth chart too. Yeah,
So
Skinner is
no
gone.
Skinner.
Skinner.
Is he's found a rebirth in Pittsburgh. Like
That's right.
the pressure was just immeasurable on him as being a hometown kid, an Edmonton kid growing up, playing for the Oilers, trying to win a Stanley Cup. Listen, the problem in Edmonton, you could put any goaltender in Edmonton. Yes, somebody might be able to take the reins and be, 1 or 2 saves better on a nightly basis, right? The problem is that they're just not good defensively. And, so they win by outscoring other teams. Tristan Jarry, I think when he played in Pittsburgh, he was playing fine. He was playing well. He fit into the system. He made the saves he needed to make. I think he's a good goaltender, talented goaltender, but when you're on a team that's so susceptible to defensive breakdowns, then you have to make the incredible saves. So, it chewed up and spit out Stuart Skinner, Calvin Pickard, a number of old other goaltenders in the last few years. And now Tristan Jarry got his chance. And now all of a sudden, I've heard a lot of rumors, infighting. I'm sure there's a lot of frustration on his part. And Connor Ingram, who was playing great in past seasons with Utah, I think that he's a very capable goalie. But as you mentioned, it's one of those things. It's like you have to play a goalie who's going to have confidence in himself. Team has to have confidence in him. And when you get into the playoff or this playoff run, I think is going to tell a lot, right? I mean, Edmonton could end up being first, second, or third in Pacific. They could end up being a wild card team. I mean, it's so compressed in that Western Conference right now
Yeah.
for a spot that, listen, the Central Division is far and away predetermined, right? Between Dallas, Colorado. I mean, like they're just racing to the top. Colorado, obviously the favorite to win the Stanley Cup.
Especially after
But
the deadline. My God.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean they're pushing chips in to try to make sure that this is their year. Listen, the goaltending around the board is going to be questioned, and I think the fact that Connor McDavid, it's obviously well known that he signed a 2-year extension at, we'll call it nominal money, not much more than he was already making, to make sure that they had space in the salary cap to be able to go up and make sure they shored up their team for, another stretch run. And they went out and got a couple guys that are going to make a difference. I think defensively, 5-on-5, but they did not go out and get another goaltender. They said that we think we have what we need. We just have to be better in front of them. So I totally agree that if they get more support, either Jari right now or Connor Ingram can certainly do the job.
Vegas Golden Knights, Aiden Hill, now Carter Hart. That's quite the duo in Vegas, and certainly Aiden Hill's got experience in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where to go from here. Aiden Hill was like, I don't know, 5th on the depth chart when they won the Stanley Cup,
Exactly.
right? They were injury after injury, and he got his opportunity. Not that he wasn't a good goaltender. He had played in Arizona, and, so he was a capable goaltender. And listen, I'd like, as a former goaltender, if you're put into a position where you have a quality team in front of you, you build your own confidence because they're good in front of you. They let you see the puck. There's not a lot of second or third chances. All of a sudden, that confidence snowballs, and you feel like you're unbeatable. And that's what happened with Aiden Hill in that playoff run. Kudos to him. He stepped up, made huge saves when he needed to, and was able to ride the Stanley Cup. Got a new contract.
Got a deal out of it. Yep.
Yeah. So he's done. They moved on from some of their other goaltenders. Thompson was moved on to Washington Capitals. He was, he was up for Rookie of the Year. He was a player that they envisioned being their goalie of the future for the next decade. And, he just actually found a great spot, a great home in Washington. So it worked out for all the goaltenders involved. But, the Carter Hart signing, I think long-term is a good signing, from a, pure talent standpoint. I would think that going into the playoffs, you want to have one guy who's going to be your guy. And so I think at some point they're going to have to decide who they're going to go with. Is it going to be, Carter Hart and let him run with it? Or are you going to go with Aiden Hill and say, listen, he's our proven guy, a good track record, especially as he gets into the playoffs. But, these aren't clear-cut guys that you say, this is a Vasilevsky or this is, a top netminder that is going to be able to say like, hey, he's our guy. We have no questions. Are we going to have a Bob in net, a Bobrovsky? Is Bob going to be able to carry, our team through the playoffs like he's done for Florida the last 2 seasons? These goalies, I don't think are those type of goalies. Not at this point.
What I like though about the NHL in particular is you get in and anyone's got a chance, right? Get in,
Yeah.
you ride a hot netminder, as you mentioned. Aiden Hill was that guy, and I mean, no one really saw that coming for Vegas. So it's really makes it interesting. Get in and see what happens. Lukasz Dostal, as you mentioned, now the starter for the Anaheim Ducks. He has not seen the postseason. What advice would you give him heading into the postseason that he needs to know, needs to think about or not think about in postseason hockey?
Well, I'm going to rewind because, I think before I would give him any sort of information from anybody is the fact that he's been in some huge situations during his career, 4 nations, Olympics, World Championships,
Good point.
World Juniors. So he's been able to be in those big moments. And so I don't think the moment will be too big for him by any stretch. I think he's just one of these guys who's ultra prepared, mentally and physically, that he's ready to go. And, I think with the support system that they have with their goaltending consultants, Sudsy and Peter, they're guys that are going to make sure the goaltenders are well prepared, especially with special teams and shooters. And I think that, Dostal's been around now enough. He's played enough games where, especially being specific against the team, the tendencies of some of the players, where guys like to shoot. So you kind of have your little black book on those guys. And I think right now he's well positioned. I just think his pregame preparation is well superior to most goalies in the NHL. I mean, he is just so locked in and ready to go. And like most goaltenders, you've kind of replayed, what possibly could happen, what shooting areas are guys going to be in and what plays you might be able to see. Is it a 2-on-1? Are you looking at the shooter's stick? You're reading and anticipating for, passes across to the backside. So that preparation is done prior to the games, and he does that incredibly well.
One thing about Dostal too that I've noticed over the years is his temperament. He's not too high. He's not too low. Very different from a John Gibson who wore his emotions on his sleeve, as we know when he was out there. When Gibby was not happy with things.
Yeah.
Dostal's different on the other side. You really don't know what's going on and behind the cage. And he is a guy too, Gibo, that I always loved is back in the day, I mean a couple of years ago when the NHL required players to wear suits when they traveled, right? The dress code.
Yeah.
Dostal would show up in a 3-piece suit. I mean, that guy was dressed to the nines, and I appreciate that. For a guy that likes a good suit like I do, I was like, damn, that's awesome. All business. And I've not been on a plane with the team in a couple of years, so I'm not sure. I know that they don't have to do that anymore.
Oh yeah,
but if he's wearing, I don't know if he's wearing the suit or not anymore, but just he is all business, and he has got that mindset and that temperament. And I would only imagine, Guy, that will bode well. As you mentioned, he's been in some big situations. That is certainly going to help him here moving into the postseason.
Yeah, just having something to lean on, and being in those moments where, you're the guy, that you have to make the stop and, the team's relying on you. And I think that's, something every goaltender embraces. I mean, we gravitate toward that position as a young kid because it's fun and you want to be the hero. I mean, I can remember my parents are like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, you're going to win or you're going to lose. And so if you win,
you're the last guy.
Yeah,
you're the
hero.
Last line of defense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I've said this many times in interviews. It's like you're going to be the hero or the GOAT. And back then, the GOAT did not mean greatest of all time. It meant it was all your fault.
Right.
So, but I think that's, that's the challenge. And that's why we love being in that position. And, there's nothing better than making those saves that are not expected. And it keeps momentum or creates momentum for your team. And I just think that, for Dostal, he's just, he's a leader. And I don't think maybe fans realize that goaltenders can be leaders, but that kind of quiet confidence really shows. And it shows guys on the bench, when you make that save, it has that ripple effect to the players on the ice, but sitting on the bench as well, saying, excuse me, like, oh, he's on, he stole one for us right there. And I think, his professionalism, whether it's, him, dressing in suits, being ready to come to the game. I think that Henrik Lundqvist was somebody I think that he emulates where, the king would show up sharp dressed.
Yes.
And, but that's when you put that suit on, and I know the game has changed and you see guys coming in with hats on backwards and, sweatsuits and hoodies and all that. I mean, it's way more comfortable, and I'm happy for them for that, especially traveling on the road. But I do miss the fact that, when you show up at the rink, part of getting dressed in the suit was the fact that, you were kind of locking in and getting ready for the game. And not that you couldn't wearing something more comfortable, but I think a lot of guys, when you got dressed, whether at home or on the road, that meant it was game time and you were ready to go.
Yeah, and one thing too about Dostal, before we move on, is the Ducks are 8-0 in the shootout, which is unheard of. But a big reason for that is Dostal the wall. I mean, one-on-one, man. I mean, talk about high pressure situations. You and just the shooter, and he has been lights out, and that's a big reason the Ducks, are undefeated when it comes to the shootout. You touched on Beckett Seneca. And also you used a phrase, didn't see it coming. He is a guy I don't think that the league saw coming, except maybe internally, because obviously they took him with a high pick. But I want to ask you one thing, and this is something I've seen over the years with the Ducks team in particular, is when you have a young player, you don't necessarily have a lot of patience for that player and allow them to make mistakes. And it's tough too, because you're at the highest level at your sport, at your craft. The coaches are expected to win, franchise is expected to win. You don't necessarily have the patience or the runway to make those mistakes. But I want to ask you, how important is it to be able to make those mistakes and know that you're still going to be able to get into the next night or the next game, to fix those mistakes? And you can play a little bit looser. You're not gripping the stick, as they like to say. It
I
seems like the Ducks have been able to give Beckett Seneca, especially Coach Q, that runway for him to develop into the talent that he is today.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch that goes into that question you just asked. And, part depends on what type of team you're on. If you're a perennial winner and, going to be a Stanley Cup contender and you're a rookie, yeah, those nights are going to be a little difficult because you're not going to be able to be in the lineup if you're making mistakes. And I think so if you're on a team that's rebuilding and moving towards something, I think that obviously there's a little more forgiveness from the coaching staff. Not that if you're making boneheaded plays out there that you're just going to keep getting another shift. The great equalizer for any coach, as they say, is ice time. And so if you're not performing and if you're not learning from those mistakes, if you keep repeating those mistakes, obviously you're going to be either on the bench or up in the press box watching. So with Beckett in mind, I think that he's grasped the system that the Ducks employ offensively and defensively quicker than I think a lot of rookies do. He's a big physical guy, and being, such a young kid in a league playing against men, it's sometimes hard to imagine that somebody can make that transition at such a young age. Now, because of his size, he's able to play at a high level, get to the front of the net, finish checks, outmuscle some players. So I think that's been a huge benefit to him that, I as, a broadcaster, alumni, a hockey fan, didn't necessarily see coming. I think the coaching staff combined has done an excellent job with him. I think the veterans, line mates have done a great job with him. You can see every time guys go to the bench, they have the iPads right there, and it's easy for kids, I think these days, to be able to get the iPad in front of them and look down and say, okay, yeah. When a coach says, hey, you missed this, you didn't do this, and whatever,
Right.
sometimes it doesn't translate as you're just listening to it. You're trying to process it in the moment. But when you can see it on the iPad in front of you and the coach comes over your shoulder, your line mate says, hey, when I do this, you need to do this, or that's your man, you got to have a stick on him. Or when you're back checking, you got to fill this area. So I think that learning curve is shortened because of the technology, but I think it takes a lot of effort from the player himself to be able to say like, hey, I've got to make sure that, I'm putting myself in the best case for success by supporting my teammates, by knowledge. And I think that's a big thing, is that sometimes you rely too much just on your God-given talent, and that I've been the best everywhere I've played, and it's just going to naturally translate to the NHL. And I think that's where a lot of guys end up struggling. They end up going to the minors and then trying to figure out the game there, because it is obviously a little bit slower than it is here in the NHL. But I think, Beckett, again, he's going to be in the running for the Calder Trophy. Whether he wins it or not, we'll have to see, but he's definitely going to be one of the top three in the Calder voting.
One more for you, and as you know more than anyone, and I've just seen over the years, you get to the postseason, it's 2-1, 1-0, 3-2, low scoring games, right? The Ducks
Yeah,
have
normally, yep.
it's been a shooting gallery for the most part with the Anaheim Ducks this season. As we've talked about, I think they're right now third in the league in goals against, but they're third in the league in shots for. So as we, approach this, under 20 game stretch here to round out the regular season, what are some of the things the Ducks want to clean up to be better prepared for as they enter the postseason?
Well, I know we talked about it in the last podcast or two or so ago. We talked about, I think your question to me was, okay, is this
Is this
sustainable?
sustainable?
Is this sustainable? And I'm like, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And we've kind of seen it continue where
Right.
they are able to outscore their opponents, not every night. The game in Toronto, I referred to that road trip where you start thinking like, okay, well, hey, we beat Winnipeg, that was maybe who knows? And then we knew Ottawa was going to be a difficult game. We knew Montreal was going to be difficult. They probably in their mind had penciled in a win against Toronto, and they were well on their way to a win, up 3-1. Gudas takes the 5-minute major. All of a sudden, gives Toronto some life. A bunch of power play goals, and the game just shifted right there. So I think they were kind of knocked, a little off, and then had a hard time trying to get their traction back. But they did respond once again in Montreal, where they were up, down, and then making that kind of miraculous comeback. But the game does change as you get into the playoffs. Teams, especially as you mentioned, veteran teams who have been through the fight before, kind of know how to buckle down. The intensity ramps up. I mean, that's why fans across the globe just love NHL playoff hockey because, you're playing, best 7 series, the first of 4 moves on and everybody else just goes home and starts summer vacation. So, that desperation in every single shift, every minute of the game, every play is so crucial that, that's where the sacrificing of bodies come, taking the hit, giving the hit, blocking shots. And that's where I think, the game gets compressed into a little bit more defensive, right? The ice all of a sudden shrinks. The speed is taken away. There's not a lot of open ice because, guys are finishing checks one after the other. I think the Ducks can adjust. I think, because of some of those big physical defensemen that they have, I think that they can certainly make that adjustment. I think the team and the coaching staff can make the adjustment, Frenchie, just being able to say like, okay, we've made it to our goal. We're in the playoffs. Now this is who we're playing, and we can be very detailed oriented against a specific team. This is the strength of this team. They like to do this. We have to do this to combat what they are good at doing. So, that's the great part and the fun part, I think, for the players and the coaching staff. When you get to that playoff, the challenge is how do we, negate the other team's best players? How do we attack them offensively? And what do we need to do defensively to make sure that we kind of keep them at bay? So, and then, the adjustments go on from shift to shift, to period to
Yep.
period, and game to game.
Well, I've been busy pouring beer, so I haven't been to Honda Center lately. I do see some of the games up on the screen. You've kind of relayed this to me, but it seems that it is a packed arena night after night. As we mentioned, 7 years without postseason hockey. These Ducks fans are incredibly hungry. What is the vibe like at Honda Center right now? I mean, they're gonna blow the roof off that place come postseason
Yeah.
hockey.
I think that's the thing is, the fans have been great, right? It is difficult to watch your team, lose and not make playoffs. And I think, for the past few years, I think when you give the fans some hope and direction and saying like, hey, we have a plan. And
Mhm.
that's what I think, Pat Verbeek did. He just came in and said like, uh, I'm making no excuses. I'm not, no apologies. Like, this is the plan I'm going to have and I'm going to stick to. And if there's hurt feelings along the way, that's fine. Some of your favorite players may come and go. And I think that, because he's just kind of stuck to that plan, you've seen, the light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, the ownership has been totally on board. I think the coaching change has been monumental. And I just think that it gave such legitimacy to the team. That's not a knock against the former coaches, the amount of hours and passion and effort that they've all put into trying to make this organization better, certainly should be commended. But I think once you get to a stage where you think that like, hey, this is going to be our window and it's going to be our window for the next few to several years because of the talent that we have, you have to make that decision that we need the best of the best that's available. And Joel Quenneville was out there. And of course, the supporting cast that he has is tremendous. So I think that, Ducks fans, I mean, they are waiting and tapping their toes. And I've been at many games, if not all of them, and no one leaves the building. I mean, because they know and are hoping that if the Ducks are down,
Yep.
then they're going to still make a comeback. And they've been treated to some incredible comebacks. So yes, when the team gets to the playoffs this season, there's fewer seats. So if you don't have a seat because of all the construction, those tickets are going to be, very coveted, difficult to get. And I'm sure I'm going to be getting a lot of text messages from people.
Gibo, last question. Do you believe?
Do I believe? I believe I am a buyer. They always say about the stock market, are you a hold, a buyer, or a seller? And listen, I am a complete buyer of this team. And for a lot of reasons, coaching staff, what they have in their lineup every night, great goaltending. Ville Husso, I think, needs a shout out. I think, with Peter Mrazek out for the season, the insurance plan that Pat Verbeek got with Ville Husso to be there just in case, or if he outplayed Peter Mrazek. I mean, it was a pickup that I think gave them comfort, knowing that, hey, if something were to happen, Ville Husso can step in, and he's done a tremendous job. It's not an easy job. We talk about it many times, is sitting on the bench, waiting and waiting for your turn to get a start. Or if there's an injury, you come into a game cold. So he's done a great job, but that's just all the pieces of the puzzle. And that's why I'm all in. I'm all in for the playoff push and the playoffs of this season.
Aren't you going to ask me the same question?
Hey, Kent, what do you think? Are you a buyer, a seller? Or
No,
are
you
you
have to
just
ask
in a
me,
hole?
No, you have to ask me, do I believe?
Oh, I thought good for us and good
No,
for us.
not yet.
No, we're not there yet.
You know what I'm wearing? Look what I'm
Oh,
wearing.
yes, I see that. The Ted Lasso.
AFC
Yes.
Richmond jacket.
Okay, so yes,
It's 95 degrees outside. I am sweating like a madman here, and you've not asked me about my jacket the entire podcast.
Hey, Kent, I couldn't see it. But, hey, Kent, do you believe in this Ducks
I
team?
believe. I am wearing the darn jacket because I believe. And we were doing that Olympic show at Green Cheek, and people were asking us, are they going to make the postseason? We're like, yes, they are. Absolutely. And so, yes, I believe. You got new Ted Lasso season 4 coming out this summer. The timing is perfect for this Ducks run. Let's go. I believe. Let's make it happen, Guy Bear.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is going to be a treat. It's going to be an exciting finish. We all love to watch these last bunch of games. Hoping for home ice advantage. I think that would go a long, long way for the success for a playoff run.
Not only Blake
in the playoffs,
they break the playoff drought, they get home ice. That's crazy. Yeah, that's just crazy to think about. All right, well, good stuff. I think we hit it. It's the Pacific Division preview for the less than 20 left here of the regular season as the Ducks are on the home stretch and get themselves into playoffs, as we mentioned, for the first time in 7 seasons. And that being said, this has been the Mask of the Mike. You can follow us, of course, on our Instagram handle at the Mask the Mike, and then we have the YouTube channel where you can view us, the Mask the Mike, and don't forget about Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Gibo, because that's when we really sound good.
I tell you, we sound good, and people need to see. Right? They got to see the We Believe jacket, right?
We Believe jacket.
All
right. Well, that's been. I got to get this jacket off. And
you got to get to school.
I got to get to school. I got to drop off some bubble braids. So this has been an edition of the Mask of the Mike, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening.
And good for us.
Boom.